Successful strike would be virtually silent. While there would be no immediate loss of life, we would immediately plunge back to the 1880s. In the 1880s, very few people lived in the desert, like Las Vegas, Phoenix, LA, and other parts of the USA, because it wasn't survivable. Without working transportation, electricity for air conditioning, and pumps to supply water, the only way out of the desert is to walk. And how far can you walk in the desert? Well, continuing, an EMP attack would be felt continent-wide, including Canada and Mexico. Senator Kyle says it would take the U.S. as long as 6 months to make a minimal recovery. That's assuming the Russians, the Europeans, and the Chinese wait while we're helpless. The Muslim nations certainly do not want us to reassume our place as the great Satan superpower, and none of this is an over-exaggeration of the threat posed by such an attack. Neither is it an unlikely or impossible as we would like to believe, because they've already done it. They already know this works. It's just, can they get a missile close enough to get it? The optimal has to be, to get all the continental U.S., you'd have to be at 400 to 500 miles, and there are not very many countries that have a missile that can go accurately and explode. And so the only ones right now that are crazy enough to do it would be Iran and North Korea, which happen to be the two that are closest to developing atomic, or already have it, weaponry. But continuing, Bible prophecy clearly identifies at the end of the world 4 spheres of global power. You all know that. You've studied the Bible enough. There are 4 spheres of global power. Ezekiel identifies the Russian-Muslim alliance very clearly, names all the countries and the geographic locations. John foretells the military forces of the kings of the East. So we have the north, which is Russia and the Muslims. We have the east, which would be the whole dragon of China and all of the other little mini Eastern, Oriental, Asian states that would be mentioned in the Bible at the end of time. The prophet Daniel identifies the king of the south as Muslim nations, probably of Africa. So we've got the north, Russia and maybe the old Soviet Union things, and then we've got the east, which is Asia, and we have the south, which is a unified, probably Africa, around all that's going on there with the different North African Muslim states, and it is going south. And finally, there is the most described, which is what Daniel identifies as the revived form of the old Roman Empire. So there they are, the north, south, the east, and the west. And these powers come in from the west, from Europe, the revived Roman Empire, from the north, from the south, from the east. Here's the ominous part. There is no mention of a 5th global superpower that matches the description of the United States of America. On the contrary, the revived Roman culture of Europe is predicted to be the supreme power. The United States is mentioned, however, in Scripture in the last days, but in a very different context. And for just a moment, keep your finger in Lamentations, but I want you to go to 2 Timothy 3, because I want to read to you Paul's description of the United States. Because the United States is the largest assemblage of Christians, supposedly, on the planet. I mean, we have the most of everything. We have the most Christian books. We have the most Christian churches. We have the most Christian seminaries. We have the most Christian missionaries. We have the most Christian teachers. We have the most Christian everything. Ministries right down the line. We are the ultimate most of everything to do with Christianity. We are one of the only 2 nations on the planet that has a Judeo-Christian ethic at the foundation of our society. And we are described in the Bible, I believe. And I want to read to you 2 Timothy 3, 1 through 5. But know this, in the last days perilous times will come. For men will be lovers of themselves, lovers of money, boasters, proud, blasphemers, disobedient to parents, unthankful, unholy, unloving, unforgiving, slanderers, without self-control, brutal, despisers of good, traitors, headstrong, haughty, lovers of pleasure rather than lovers of God, having a form of godliness, but denying its power. From such, turn away. What's amazing is it's difficult not to recognize most of our American culture in those 5 verses. And I think what happens is that this nation that is supposed to be the light to the world with the glorious gospel. We are narcissistically looking inward at our own self-pleasure. The majority of time, most people spend most of their time thinking about themselves, how they can preserve their lifestyle, how they can have a more secure financial life, a more comfortable retirement, a more powerful career, a more successful family, their children, or whatever it is. But we are so inward looking and so much loving, as Paul says, our money, ourselves, our pleasures, that our whole culture is robbed of the power of the gospel. Because Christians are just as likely to live a life of sin as unsaved people are. I'm talking about generally in our church. Well, perhaps America just implodes. Perhaps we just, like the Roman Empire, collapse around ourselves. Perhaps there is what the economy doomsday people say is a total meltdown. Do you know that right now in America there are people that are day traders in houses? You've heard of day traders in stocks? I mean, that's nothing new. I used to do that when I was in high school. I used to make money just buying and selling stuff, commodities and stocks. But did you know there are people now that turn houses in a day? I mean, there are about 50 hot housing markets. A lot of them are on the coast. And you can put a deposit on a house and sell it the same day and make $50,000. There are people that do this all the time. In fact, they're buying houses that aren't even built on speculation, and those houses will be bought and sold 6 and 7 times. Read the Wall Street Journal. Even the non-believing secular world is concerned about the ominous results of this huge amount of trillions of dollars that's going into real estate, into speculation on real estate. It's just unbelievable what's going on in our world. Well, perhaps we're gone by then, but no matter whether we solve the potential threat of the EMP, 2 things are clear. America is unwelcome in the world today, and we're absent in Bible prophecy. Okay? I mean, that's pretty clear. Unless we get adopted by Europe, which is a possibility. I've always thought that we are a part of the revived Roman Empire because America is Roman to its core. I mean, even that I said a senator tells you that our whole governmental system reflects the representative government of the Roman Republic. So, I mean, that is a possibility, and I'm not a doomsdayer. I'm the most hopeful person in the world. And by the way, I do make my mortgage payment every month, and I do believe that life is going to go on until the Lord comes or calls. But America, if we're not pulled into Europe somehow, is going to disappear. And there are a lot of ways. The EMP is one way. I mean, you try and live in Tulsa, in our houses with no electricity in July. You know what I mean? So that's why Senator Kyle is so concerned.